Good afternoon, and welcome to the last episode of APPNA community webinar, Ask the Experts, for the year 2020. There are many words that comes to mind when we think of the year 2020. Words like challenging, difficult, grieving, anxiety, uncertainty, and fear. However, for me personally, I would call 2020 the year of resilience. Not only we witnessed one of the worst crises of healthcare in the recent history due to COVID-19, but also witnessed the strength and courage of humanity. We saw healthcare workers, our frontline heroes of all ages and race, risking their lives every day to keep the world going. 2020 managed to bring forward the best in us. We saw neighbors taking care of sick and elderly among them. We saw young adults risking their lives to take on more difficult jobs to keep their elderly safe. We saw the strength of human connection through technology despite physical distancing. At least we can see light towards the end of the tunnel now in the form of COVID-19 vaccine. Today, our webinar is divided into 4 segments. We will get an update on Roshan digital account, update on social welfare, disaster relief committee, and COVID-19 task force, and all you need to know about COVID-19 vaccine, and then farewell to Executive Committee 2020 and welcome to the incoming Executive Committee 2021. We will start our update on Roshan digital accounts. Few weeks back, we had Governor and Deputy Governor of State Bank of Pakistan with their team and President and CEOs of 6 top banks who joined us as Honorable Governor Dr. Riza Bakir introduced Roshan digital accounts, a new initiative for expatriate Pakistanis by the government of Pakistan. Our first segment is continuation of the same. And today we have guest panel headed by Honorable Deputy Governor of State Bank of Pakistan, Dr. Murtaza Syed, with his team to give us update and answer a few of our webinar participant questions. Let me introduce them briefly. Honorable Deputy Governor of State Bank of Pakistan, Dr. Murtaza Syed, was appointed Deputy Governor of State Bank on January 27, 2020. Dr. Syed has 20 years experience in macroeconomics and policy planning. He worked with IMF for 16 years before joining the State Bank. Our second guest is Mr. Imran Maqbool, President, MCB Bank. Mr. Syed Irfan Ali, Executive Director, State Bank of Pakistan and MD Deposit Protection Corporation. Mr. Arshad Bhatti, Director and Head of PRI, State Bank of Pakistan. Welcome, gentlemen. I will start with Honorable Dr. Murtaza Syed and request him to please give us an update.
Thank you very much, Rani. It's very nice to see you again. And Dr. Nahid, good to see you again as well. And good afternoon to all the listeners today. It really is a privilege to be able to talk to APPNA again. It was about 2 months ago, as Dr. Durrani said, that the governor, myself, and our team introduced the Roshan digital account to the APPNA members. And I'm very happy to be able to give you an update and also to make one request of your members. On behalf of Arshad Bhatti Saab and Irfan Saab, who are also joining me today, I would also like to extend our thanks to Imran Maqbool Saab and MCB for helping put this webinar together. I have some very good news. When we last spoke at the end of October, we had about 25,000 accounts that had been opened, 25,000 Roshan digital accounts, and the amounts that had come in through those accounts were about 34 million. That was just the beginning. It was about a month into the Roshan digital account initiative. And today, about 2 months later, I'm very happy to be able to tell you that we have 57,340 Roshan digital accounts opened. That's more than twice the amount that we had when we were last together at the end of October. And we have $179 million that have come in through these accounts. That's almost 6 times the amount we had a month and a half ago when we last spoke. So we're off to a very good start. This money has come in to Pakistan from about 90 different countries abroad, including, of course, the US, Canada, Europe. And if I were to give you some sense of the proportion of the amount of money that has come from North America and Europe, about 11% of the amount that has come into the Russian digital accounts has come from these jurisdictions. And about every sixth account that is being opened from North America and Europe. So these are very good numbers. We are very happy with the take-up. The start is very good, it's very strong. And we want to keep this momentum flowing now because we believe we have a very good product on offer for overseas Pakistanis, which provides a win-win to both our overseas Pakistanis as well as the Pakistan economy, because this foreign exchange comes into the country, circulates in the economy, and helps spur economic activity. Just to remind your listeners, especially those who may not have been with us during our first webinar, the Russian digital account is basically a digital account, a totally presence-less account that you can open and operate from wherever you live. And it also offers you some very good investment opportunities. Out of the $179 million that have come in through these accounts, 110 million has gone into the Naya Pakistan certificates. Just to remind your listeners, the Naya Pakistan certificate is a government bond, which is available at short tenors, 3 months, 6 months, a year, as well as longer tenors, 3 years and 5 years, available in both Pakistani rupees and US dollars, and offers very attractive returns to our overseas Pakistanis, ranging between 5.5% and 7% on the US dollar denominated certificates, and 9.5% and 11% on the Pakistan rupee denominated certificates. So 110 million has already come in to these certificates, 60% into the conventional form, and 40% into the Islamic form of these certificates. At the same time, we have had about $1 million come into the stock market in Pakistan. So as I said, this is a very good beginning. It's a good start, and we are very happy with it. And we really want to try to take the Russian digital account to the next level in the coming months with your help. In terms of the feedback that we're getting from overseas Pakistanis, it's been very strong. We are getting very good testimonials from bankers, from professionals, chartered accountants, engineers, doctors all over the world who are very happy with their experience so far. And I think that going forward, we want to engage even more with our colleagues in North America, such as, of course, the Association of Physicians of North America. One other thing that I wanted to say is that in terms of the repatriation from these accounts, we're also seeing money going out, so going back from Pakistan into the jurisdictions from where it came. We have seen about $1 million being repatriated, and there also the experience has been very good. Money has gone back without any problems, as we had committed when we launched the Russian digital account. And that, I think, should give people a lot of confidence that these accounts are backed by very strong commitment on the part of the State Bank to make life easy for our overseas Pakistanis. The last thing I'd like to say before I turn to Imran Maqbool Saab to talk a little bit about the MCB experience is that, I was an overseas Pakistani myself not long ago. And when it came to making financial decisions, I wanted to invest in Pakistan, but I always had some apprehensions about doing that. What I'd like to tell you is that we are now in a new regime. We have technocrats running the State Bank. We have technocrats running the Finance Ministry. And we have a Prime Minister who's dedicated to overseas Pakistanis. And I think this is a very good opportunity for overseas Pakistanis to send to Pakistan now and be confident that this regime will honor its commitments. And I would also like to make an offer that if any of your APPNA members want to open a Russian digital account, they can write to me, they can write to Arshad Bhatti Saab, they can write to Irfan Ali Saab. We will share our email addresses with the organizers today, and we will work with you to have your accounts opened. This is our commitment to you, and I know that Imran Maqbool Saab also shares this commitment to making life easy for our overseas Pakistanis, and we ourselves want to make ourselves available to your members in any way that they find useful. So thank you very much for that, Durrani Saab, and we look forward to the questions. I'll hand it back to you now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mirza Sayed Saab, for the update. Dr. Naheed Usmani, the president of APPNA, has also joined. Before I request Imran Maqbool Saab, I will ask Naheed, or Dr. Naheed Usmani, to quickly say welcome to our guest. Naheed, you're muted.
I'm unmuting myself. Ji, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I think these community webinars are doing such a lot of service to everyone, updating them. Thank you so much, Dr. Murtaza Sayed and other members from the banking community who are joining us. I think this is going to be the last of the community webinars for 2020. I hope the previous ones that we held were topical, were of interest to APPNA membership and to the community at large. And I would like to thank Dr. Harun Durrani for arranging them. Inshallah, 2021 will be a better year. Certainly better than the COVID-19 vaccination is going to be effective and break the cycle of the pandemic. Obviously, we will have to continue practicing social distancing and masking because the virus is here to stay for at least next year and for a while till we develop herd immunity. So I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. Thank you so much, Harun.
Thank you. Thank you, Naheed. So I'm going to ask Dr. Actually, most of them are doctor here, Mr. Imran Maqbool Saab, who's the president, MCB. Actually, Imran Maqbool Saab and Zargam Khan Durrani have been very instrumental in helping us arrange these Roshan Digital account. This is the second episode. Please go ahead and say a few words.
Thank you very much, sir. Assalamu alaikum, and very happy good afternoon, Dr. Harun Durrani and Dr. Naheed Usmani Sahib, and all the rest of the dignitaries who are joined or are in the process of joining. As Dr. Durrani mentioned, this year is an unprecedented year, and it has reflected the strength of human connection through technology. So I'm picking up from Dr. Durrani's comment. This flagship initiative of State Bank, which is in collaboration of 8 large banks in Pakistan, is a standout moment for the banking industry in Pakistan, because what Pakistan is now doing, or what State Bank's initiative is, to reach out the world, to reach out those Pakistani communities spread all over the world, and to give them an experience of innovative banking solution for all the non-resident Pakistanis seeking banking services in Pakistan involving digital payments, savings, and investments. And as Dr. Murtaza Sayed has said, there has been a very favorable and attractive engagement by non-resident Pakistanis. And we as MCB are very thankful. We are in fact eternally thankful to APPNA members for choosing MCB as their host. This is of course a select community of Pakistani physicians in North America, whom we, not only we, but the country also highly look up to, because they are the ambassadors of the Pakistani community in North America. And our objective as MCB is that we actively advertise to all the APPNA members through the website, through the Facebook page, and through the e-newsletter. And we are receiving very favorable responses as well. Just to demonstrate our commitment to the APPNA members for making the digital journey more and more attractive, we have, as MCB has given special waiver on all service charges. We have designated relationship managers, and we are also ensuring that we provide free checkbook, debit, and credit cards to their doorstep in North America, free of any charges. We are also ensuring that there are no charges for incoming or an outgoing remittances. Now, these are some of the features that we are adding to the Roshan digital account. And our objective is that as we progress, thank you, Dr. Durrani Saab, for displaying it. I'm just going to walk through all these, not in detail, but of course, this is self-explanatory. The idea is to ensure that each and every member of Roshan, each and every member of APPNA can review it. And if they have any queries, they can write to us, to MCB, or to State Bank of Pakistan. But we are ensuring that this digital journey becomes a flagship for not for a short term, but it's going to be a consistent feature of the banking industry in Pakistan for decades to come, for generations to come. And we'll be very happy to take questions and to address your concerns and your queries. The only last point that I would like to highlight again, that all the partner banks, including, of course, under the supervision of State Bank, we are ensuring the repatriation of funds anytime, seamlessly back to the host country from where the funds have arrived. With this, I'll thank Dr. Haroon Durrani for giving me this forum to address the APPNA members. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we'll move to a few questions. I'm going to ask the first question. In the first seminar, we were told that if somebody has a money or income within Pakistan, that money cannot go to this Roshan digital account. Is that true? And if it's, and the second question is, can these Roshan digital accounts be opened with your spouses? Whoever want to take the question.
I can take those questions, Dr. Durrani. The way the Roshan digital account works is that it can only be fed with money that is coming from outside Pakistan or is being generated in Pakistan through those investments. So basically, you can only put money into the Roshan digital account through money from outside, or if you happen to make some money in Pakistan with those investments, you can also use that in the Roshan digital account. You can't feed it locally. That is the sort of term that we use. And the second, to your second question, yes, absolutely. You can open the account jointly with anyone you want. It can be a non-resident, it can be a resident. And so definitely you can open it with your spouse as well.
Okay. I just want to share my experience. I mean, I opened the Roshan digital account. It is a little lengthy process, but once you follow the instructions and the document required, if you have all of them at one place, it hardly takes 15 minutes. And when I opened it, I think when I was in the middle of the process, the bank realized that I'm trying to open the account. I got immediate message from on WhatsApp relationship person that, sir, you are trying to open an account. Can I be of any help? And that person took me to the rest of the process, which was seamless, very easy, very important. But the reason I asked you if you can open it with your spouse, I was told that you cannot. So maybe somebody can confirm that. I was told that the spouses have to open their own accounts. My next question is, this is to the MCB president. Liaquat Zaman Saab is asking this question. When we send money to our family to their MCB account, it is taxed. The bank officer says that the beneficiaries have to fill some form so that it is not taxed. Imran Maqbool Saab.
As far as the regulations are concerned, there are no tax on it. And I can also reconfirm that. And Mr. Arshad Bhatti, who is also a subject matter expert, Mr. Bhatti, if you can also put some light on that, that will be useful.
Thank you, Imran Sahab. Thank you, Dr. Durrani. In fact, the remittances coming into Pakistan, these are not taxed. So if you declare that this is a home remittance coming into Pakistan from abroad, so that for that purpose, the amount is not taxed. The money is not taxed.
Okay.
So you can withdraw that money also. There is no tax on that withdrawal of those funds also, even in
Okay.
RDA.
Okay. The another question is there are so many overseas Pakistanis who are already banking in Pakistan and they want to keep banking with the same branch team. Is there any arrangement for selecting a branch while opening Roshan Digital account? Anyone?
Imran Sahab, would you like to?
As far as MCB is concerned, we had just to make sure that we give a seamless service. So far, the digital platform and the digitization of this whole Roshan Digital account, it is being managed by a Roshan Digital unit along with the Roshan Digital relationship managers, because there's a lot of care and attention is required. Given the size of MCB, which is more than 1,400 branches, we are taking step by step to that level. But for the time being, it is being managed by a Roshan Digital unit. And we are ensuring that, as Dr. Durrani yourself mentioned, that the experience was seamless. So we are keeping it confined to that unit for the time being. So this we will request to the APPNA members as well, that as we continue this journey, hopefully with technology and with the experience, we will aim for that. But right now it is managed with a very defined Roshan Digital unit.
Okay.
Dr.
So
Arun Sahab, if I may add.
Did you go ahead?
Besides the MCB's experience, there are a few banks that are allowing customers to tag their branches also. So there's a mixed practice in the market, but primarily the experience, what we have suggested and what we aim to is the digital experience. So that's why most of the banks are going through a digital sort of arrangement. But along with digital arrangement, some banks are also identifying the branch with which you can do your business once you come to Pakistan.
Okay. My last question is to Dr. Murtaza Sayyed. So APPNA has many component societies, and then there are APPNA members who have many NGOs, associated many NGOs. And for the last few years, these component societies and even APPNA has very difficulty sending the money for charitable projects unless some of them who had already opened account previously, they were having these difficulties. Can components, so I'm a member of alumni of Nishtar Medical College. Nishtar Medical College has so much problem, has not been able to send any money for charitable projects. There are other NGOs, and I received a question from Dr. Ghulam Qadir. He's trying to somehow open a bank account. So can these entities open Roshan Digital account, or there is another provision? I mean, you can give a brief answer today, but I think we need a detailed answer on these things. What is the process and how State Bank can help our component societies and NGOs in this regard? Thank you.
Dr. Durrani, yes, go ahead, Alfonso. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, please. Okay, you go ahead. I'll have a response to it, but.
Okay, maybe you want to add. I just wanted to say, Dr. Durrani, right now the Roshan Digital accounts are only for individuals. They are not for entities or companies. However, if you open an account and then you want to transfer money to an entity, that is perfectly fine. And also, I wanted to say that we also make ourselves available to your members if you're having other kinds of banking problems in Pakistan. Please write to us at the State Bank. And we'd be very happy to help resolve some of those because we want overseas Pakistanis to have a good experience with the Pakistani banking system, whether or not they're going through the Roshan Digital account. So if you're having any kinds of issues, please do write to us. I'll share my email address in the chat box right now. And please, your members should feel free to write to us. And to also please check our State Bank website, which has a lot of information on the Roshan Digital account initiative, as well as frequently asked questions of the kinds that are being asked today.
Very
Irfan,
good.
you want to say
Dear
something?
Francois.
Yes, sir. Dr. Saab, very clearly that we will be very glad to assist our overseas Pakistanis wherever they are. And as you may know that we have been under the FATF action plan. So because of the FATF action plan, certain restrictions were imposed on NGOs that were operating. But nevertheless, that NGO issue now stands fully resolved. And so if any NGO is facing any problem in sending or receiving money, that issue has been addressed to almost completely. So please do write to us, and we'll be very glad to help the movement of money from the US to Pakistan.
Very good. Thank you very much. This concludes our first segment. I want to thank my panelists, Dr. Mursa Sayed, Imran Maqbool Saab, Arshad Bhatti Saab, Irfan Ali Saab, for taking your time and giving us an update and answering some of the questions. Thank you very much. Now we move to our second segment. Our second segment is an update on COVID relief efforts by APPNA. We have Dr. Aisha Zafar from Social Welfare Disaster Relief Committee and Dr. Sajid Chaudhry, who is a chair COVID-19 task force, to give an update. Aisha, I see Aisha is here. Aisha, can you please give us an update?
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Durrani. Dr. Sajid Chaudhry is still making rounds, so he will not be able to attend today. So I just wanted to give a brief update. We'll show some pictures as well of the projects that we have done. In this past, it started in March when we started raising, and so far we have raised $1.1 million, and then another $80,000 were collected for the Karachi floods. Out of this, $600,000 went for food, $400,000 were for PPE, $100,000 went for the oxygen project, which was basically for the concentrators and for the oxygen cylinders. And as I mentioned before, $80,000, which were raised separately, have gone for the Karachi Rain project. We're very grateful to all the donors, which basically includes our members, chapters, alumni, our executive committee, the board of trustees, and then one very special donor, Mr. Ashar Aziz, who right in the beginning of this pandemic gave us $300,000. I'm mentioning this for the reason because these funds help us a lot, because we started a new process this year, which has not been done before, where we were matching the donations that we were getting. And this was only with the help of certain donors who would give us large sums of money. And we requested them that, can we please use these funds and match with other donations that we were getting. That helped us because if there was a donation of 5,000, we could match it and make it 10,000. Again, it depends on the amount of funding that we have, but I do think that this helped us in raising the number of funds that we have. We worked with various organizations, including Selani, Al-Khidmat, Helping Hands, Akhuwat, CDRS, Shahid Afridi Foundation, HDF, and Khana Ghar in Pakistan. The food in Pakistan was distributed all over Pakistan, which was included distant areas like Gilgit, Skardu. We went to Baltistan, in very remote areas of Balochistan. The food distribution is going on in Pakistan at this time. And right now we are actually focusing more on the food pantries in USA, because as you know, with the pandemic, the food issue has been a major concern here. And we are actually matching funds for that. And I would again request all donors that if you have any funds that you want to donate, please contact me or Dr. Sajid Chaudhry for that purpose. The PPE project was done in summer and we have pretty much wrapped that up. We are not providing any further protective PPE at this time, but if there is an interest, or God forbid, if the pandemic gets worse, that is something that we would need to address. So again, Dr. Sajid is not here, but on behalf of him and our committees, I want to thank everyone for your support. And we continue to look forward to further support from our members. I'm glad that this issue about the transfer of funds was brought up. For many of the people who are here today, if you are transferring funds to any NGO in Pakistan, it can only be done if they have an MOU with the Economic Advisory Department. If there is no MOU, no funds can be transferred. And I want you to know that there were at least 10 to 12 transactions that got canceled and funds had to come back. So please, before you transfer to any NGO, do contact with us. And I hope that MCB and the State Bank would start some sort of a system where it would facilitate us our transfer of funds, because right now we have to basically go through organizations which are registered in USA. And if we go through organizations which are in Pakistan, it is really very, very frustrating. So any help there would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much to the outgoing EC members, and I welcome the new EC members who are coming in. Thank you, Dr. Durrani.
Thank you very much, Aisha Zafar, for a tremendous job this year. The Social Welfare Disaster Relief Committee, as well as the COVID-19 Task Force has done. They have raised an unprecedented amount of money for these relief efforts. I also see Dr. Asif Rahman has joined us. He's the Chair Board of Trustees, and I will get to Dr. Asif Rahman shortly. The total number of COVID cases worldwide stand at 75.2 million, with 1.68 million lives lost. In the United States, COVID-19 positive cases, 17.6 million, with 315,000 lives lost. These numbers can break the strongest of spirits, but hope kept us all going. In such difficult times of our history, I take infinite pride to be a part of our great organization, APPNA, in which our physicians not only risk their lives every day, taking care of their patients, but also became community activists. They worked hard to create awareness and education about preventive guidelines, held fundraisers to support our communities and healthcare workers, and continue to support APPNA COVID-19 relief efforts. 2020 has changed us forever in ways we could not comprehend at the beginning of the year. We realize how vulnerable yet powerful our existence as humans, especially when we come together for a better cause. I must say, 2020, you are a reflection of human strength and unity. Together, we will be able to rise above the challenges of 2020 and inshallah will prevail over COVID-19. This brings us to our third segment, which is COVID-19 vaccine, all you need to know. And we have an expert panelist, Dr. Saad Umar. He's a director of health and professor of medicine, infectious diseases at Yale School of Medicine. Welcome, Dr. Umar. I will request you, is Dr. Umar here?
Yes, I'm very much here. Thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Umar, I would request you to give us the pertinent, we have a lot of community members over here, about the general myths which we hear these days about, is vaccine safe? Have you taken vaccine? Are there side effects? What to expect? So give us a brief shot on all these things, and then if our panelists have some questions, we can ask some of those questions. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd be happy to provide an overview of the vaccines, where they are, and some of the considerations around administering them, etc., and would be happy to take questions on the same lines that you mentioned. Could someone enable sharing for me, screen sharing for me?
Sure. Lake, can you please do that?
Give me a minute, please.
Sure.
You can share now. Okay.
All right. So I'm assuming you can see the slide.
Yes, we can see it.
So yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm the director of the Yale Institute for Global Health and a professor of medicine as well as epidemiology at Yale. So just to remind everyone, there's been a remarkable progress in vaccine development and now deployment. This is unprecedented. As someone who's been involved with vaccine-related research and academic work for close to 2 decades, this is unprecedented. The last time we had a vaccine, the fastest record for a vaccine was mumps vaccine, when Maurice Hilleman took his daughter Geraldine's swab and stuck it in his freezer and created a vaccine that came from development to actual deployment within 4 years. Having said that, that doesn't mean that fast doesn't necessarily mean that corners have been cut, and I'd be happy to describe things in a little bit more detail. But right now, we have 2 authorized vaccines. We have a bunch of vaccines, approximately 18 vaccines in phase 3 trials. So this also bodes well for what is coming down the pike. Just to remind everyone how this was developed, these vaccines were developed, the target was identified, and this is the paradigm, actually was evolved before the pandemic, and it was applied in the pandemic, starting with Ebola, and starting with the global group of folks who said that we need to move faster in pandemics. So fortunately, this approach was already evolved to a large extent when the pandemic hit. So the idea was to identify the target, the molecular targets, development, sort of engage the partners. So Oxford engaged AstraZeneca, NIH engaged Moderna. Pfizer, on the other hand, engaged BioNTech. So it was the other way around. So there's a large pharmaceutical company engaging a scientific partner. And then what happened was that while some of the essential preclinical work was done prior to human trials, a lot of the other animal work was done in parallel, which didn't have implications on safety, etc. So then the trials were conducted in a way that either phase 1 or 2 were combined, or 2 or 3 were combined. The sample size was the same, the review was the same, but the difference was that the pause was done in the interim analysis rather than doing a trial, stopping and evaluating whether we need to go to the second trial. And another part of the process that happened in parallel and has been happening in parallel is that manufacturing usually takes place, large-scale manufacturing beyond the doses needed for a trial happens after there's an approval, after there's a licensure. But this time there was a lot of at-risk manufacturing. So, for example, Pfizer shipped the doses, a couple of days after authorization, the same Sunday, because they had already manufactured doses. So there was a lot of at-risk manufacturing. So when people think about what happened in terms of fast development, it's not that someone was taking the normal route and cut corners. Someone built a highway, and the process happened, but it happened with more efficiency. A lot of us think that there are lessons to be learned for other sort of inter-pandemic period vaccine development as well. So just to remind everyone what is happening in terms of the types of vaccines that are out there. So this is your SARS-CoV-2, or it's a type of coronavirus. It has an envelope protein, a nuclear protein with viral RNA. And then it has this spike protein, which was an early target identified, like really early, January, February, as the most ideal place to target. And it wasn't that all of a sudden we had epiphany around this protein. Other coronaviruses like SARS-1, MERS, etc., the initial work on those things led us to believe, led the field to believe that this would be a good target. And within that, if you look at the spike protein that gives that sort of crown shape to this, or so that's why we call it the coronavirus or a coronavirus, we have a receptor binding protein on top of that. So one early decision was to either target the receptor binding domain, on the spike protein, or the whole protein. And so there are a variety of vaccines that are out there. So they are inactivated vaccines that contain, SARS-CoV-2 attenuated, etc., that is attenuated or inactivated. And then you have live attenuated one where it is attenuated, not inactivated. You have the recombinant version of the spike proteins. You have recombinant vaccines that are developed using vectors that target just a receptor binding proteins, etc. I will come to a couple of them that are more sort of relevant, which is the early ones is replication competent or replication deficient incompetent. vectored vaccines. You take a vectored virus, and then insert the protein that you desire, in this case, spike protein, and that becomes your vaccine. So I'll talk about those because they are coming next in terms of candidates. But the ones that everyone is talking about is this mRNA vaccine, which is essentially, I'll talk about the detail a little bit more, but essentially it's a messenger RNA with a lipid nanoparticle covering. So, a colleague and I published a detailed overview of what our vaccines are there, what are the technology out there. We also talked about adjuvants that are not in the frontline ones, but they're coming right after that, because remember, there will be a lot of decision making, a lot of clinical and public health decision making that will happen as the pipeline expands. So how do viral vector vaccines work? You essentially take the spike gene and then sort of have the viral inserted into the viral genes, and therefore there's this expression. And there are a couple of ways of doing it. Either the vector replicates or doesn't replicate. It has its own pros and cons that I can go into, but I will not go into it right away because it's a brief update. Then you have mRNA vaccine. So let's start with a DNA vaccine, and that will illustrate a difference between those. So if you have a DNA vaccine with a coronavirus spike gene inserted, you sort of transfer it and it goes to the nucleus, and then like everything else, like our usual protein development mechanism, there is an mRNA, messenger RNA, sent to the ribosomes and other parts of these protein production machinery in our cells to give a message to create a specific protein, in this case, spike protein. The RNA vaccines, and specifically mRNA vaccines, bypass that whole process. So you have this encapsulated lipid coat as a nanoparticle. That the reason why you need, so a lot of people think that the main innovation was the mRNA part. Actually, it was a huge part of the innovation. But another major innovation in vaccinology came when we figured out how to stabilize messenger RNA to be able to deliver to the cell, and that was around using a lipid nanoparticle coat. And so that is inserted, and that means that it can get to the cell, and once that coat is removed, the mRNA becomes a message with an auto-destruct function. So think of Snapchat, think of Mission Impossible, where a message is sent. It is literally a message to the protein machinery of your cell that auto-destructs. So that has a lot of benefits as well, because then you don't have extraneous effects or a lower likelihood of extraneous effects of that messenger RNA itself. Then you have the mRNA, this protein production there, which is then these proteins, the spike proteins that your own body produces, your own cells produce, are recognized by the immune system, and you mount an immune response. So these are the frontline products that are out there. Moderna, BioNTech, and AstraZeneca are the US ones. There's a J&J or Janssen one coming down the pike here, and Novavax. But globally, you have a few others. CanSino, and I'll touch upon that a little bit because it has relevance to Pakistan, and Sinopharm. And then there's this Russian vaccine out there, and I'll talk about that very briefly. So the first one to be authorized in the US was the BioNTech, Pfizer, or the way they like to pronounce it is actually BioNTech. So BioNTech Pfizer vaccine, which it was authorized. So it wasn't full licensure, but it was EUA. It has more sort of slightly different requirements for monitoring, etc. The vaccine is 95% efficacious in phase 3 trials and has minus 70-degree storage requirement, because there are differences in the lipid nanoparticle part of it, the lipid coating on the virus itself. So the storage requirements are different. So this one is minus 70 degrees. It also requires 2 doses. So a little bit of, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but overall in phase 3, the safety was reasonable. I'll come specifically to anaphylactic reactions, but it is a reactogenic vaccine in the sense that it has short-term side effects, and reactogenicity has little to do with overall safety, because these are transient, innate immune responses driven events. Essentially, the bottom line is that fatigue, headache, muscle pain, etc. are there, and they are slightly milder in older people, but they are the ones that recipients were likely to experience and have been experiencing. The other ones are injection site pains and nervous system disorders, but these are not severe outcomes. I'd be happy to elaborate on that if you require that, but these are not, we are not talking about sort of ALS type things in these kinds of events. Then we have Moderna, that was also authorized. Just recently received an EUA. It's 95% or 94%. Functionally, there is no difference. So if anyone asks you whether between Moderna and Pfizer, is there a difference in efficacy? No, no practical difference between these two. The other thing is, but there are differences in storage requirements and how much, at what temperatures it can survive. So the storage characteristics of the Moderna vaccine is minus 20 degrees Celsius, and it also requires 2 doses. There is a lot of discussion around a 1-dose schedule, but at this point, I can tell you, having been involved with, I currently serve on the WHO working group for these kinds of recommendations. I would not, without speaking for the group officially, but I can tell you that I would not at this point consider it as a serious consideration for at least the next few months to have a 1-dose schedule. It may be evaluated in trials, but right now it's a 2-dose schedule. Similar reactogenicity, fever, headache, myalgia. Similarly, going to the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is a viral vectored vaccine, which uses a chimpanzee virus it's a non-replicating virus, and then inserts the human protein. By the way, it's a vector virus. It has nothing to do with chimpanzee genes itself. So I know, all our WhatsApp groups are full of all sorts of misinformation. People are not going to get converted into chimpanzees because, first of all, it's an absurd notion through any other vaccine. And in any case, this is a virus that infects chimpanzees, not a chimpanzee origin DNA. But in any case, you take this, so they have had a range of efficacy, 62% to 90%. Their pooled efficacy is 70%. These are mainly outside the US trials. There's a better done US trial that they are doing that will have results available hopefully in January or February. And the attractive part of this is that it is cheaper, but also it can be stored at refrigeration temperatures, which is very helpful, not just for outside the US, but if it is authorized in the US, and that remains to be seen, it could be a vaccine that could fill a lot of these equity gaps that are there in the US in the current response. This is also a 2-dose vaccine. And then I will sort of, these events are, the frequency of events is a lot lower. So it is less reactogenic than the mRNA vaccines. So that's something to be considered. In Pakistan, there are phase 3 trials going on of the CanSino Chinese vaccine. CanSino is a well-established company, a mainstream company that they have. And obviously, each trial should be evaluated on its own merit. They're using Ad5 vaccine. It's a non-replicating viral vector. So adenovirus 5, and then they have a spike protein expressed on this. Their vector is different than Oxford. Right now, the efficacy is unknown. It can be stored at the refrigeration, it can be refrigerated, and the other attractive part is it can be given as a 1-dose. So that has potential for countries like Pakistan and others as well. Sputnik 5 is a Russian, it's not a satellite with the 5th version, it's a vaccine. They have for lack of a better term, an iffy track record of, Russia has a very good track record of creating vaccines, but they jumped the gun a little bit by authorizing it before their phase 3 data became available. Now I think they have learned the lesson, and now they're doing their phase 3 trials, but this 92% is in quotes because that's their initial assessment. This is the storage requirements and dosing requirements are similar to Moderna, but obviously it's a different vaccine. It's a non-replicator virus vaccine. Actually, it is 2 types of vaccines given one after another in 2 doses. And I think without going into the details, it has a rational basis of giving 2 vectors separately so that the response is against the spike protein and not the vector itself. Sinopharm came out. They did a mainstream trial in the Gulf, in the UAE. It's an inactivated viral vaccine. So they take the virus and inactivate it. The production costs are cheaper. It's currently 2 doses, can be refrigerated at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, and their reported efficacy is 86%. So giving you bit of an overview of what is coming down the pike, not just what is already there, especially relevance to Pakistan as well. One of the initial questions we faced around, as someone involved in sort of developing these recommendations, initial one was pregnancy. Just to remind everyone, ICU admission, invasive ventilation, and ECMO is higher in pregnancy. There was some initial uncertainty around it, but CDC clarified that after COVID-19 infection, COVID-19 disease and SARS-CoV-2 infection, the risk of these outcomes is higher in pregnant women compared to non-pregnant women. This is an important issue, not just because we are not at this point, none of the major recommending bodies are moving towards vaccination of pregnant women as a standalone entity. They are moving, but 75% of our healthcare workforce in the US is women. And during the course of this program, 330,000 may become pregnant or would be otherwise, quote unquote, at risk of becoming pregnant. So right now, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices were sort of recommend that that overall it's a permissive recommendation, but it should be left to the woman and their provider. That's the current recommendations. Right now, there is another meeting in parallel going on, so there may be some changes to this, but the providers should counsel in terms of shared decision-making based on level of community transmission, personal risk based on occupation and other activities, her consideration of potential risk to the fetus, efficacy of the vaccines, known side effects of the vaccines, and then disclosure about the lack of data. And then there is a specific clinical recommendation that they should be given acetaminophen proactively if there is fever, because a lot of these outcomes are associated with fever, not necessarily, and a lot of theoretical outcomes are associated with fever, not necessarily the vaccine itself. And pregnancy test is not required. Just to point out the people who are the closest to this, for example, the Society of Maternal and Fetal Medicine in the US and ACOG, American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, both have had more proactive recommendations around pregnancy than ACIP, but just to set that context. So essentially, SMFM strongly recommends that they have access to vaccines in all phases of future vaccine campaigns, and they also talk about this shared decision making, but the language is more stronger in there. Similarly, of ACOG. So switching to anaphylaxis, that is in the news. So this is latest from like half an hour ago or 45 minutes ago, half an hour before the start, that CDC ACIP, part of the CDC ACIP meeting and some of the information that was shared. This is an updated information. So if there is severe allergic reaction, for example, anaphylaxis to any component of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, it is a contraindication for vaccination listed in the prescribing information. There may be similar language for Moderna. So you should go to the prescribing information, and there is a list. I'll briefly take you through that of what is in these, in these vaccines. But the other nuances that beyond the history of reaction to any component, aside from that, CDC considers a history of severe allergic reaction to any other vaccine or injectable therapy as a precaution, but not a contraindication. So that's important. If you have, if someone has a history of anaphylaxis to any component of the vaccine itself, it's a contraindication. Contraindication means you're recommended not to give it. Precaution is that you can give it, and precaution is when there's other allergic reaction to any other injectable therapy or vaccine, but not a contraindication. Then CDC lists what you need to do. Basically, make sure that you're able to take care of it. It's administered in a situation where you're able to sort of deal with it if anything happens. Right now, the evidence suggests that the benefits in all populations continue to substantially outweigh the risks, but these are the nuances that you need to consider. I'm not going to go into the details, but these are the the components in the package insert for the Pfizer vaccine, there are slightly separate ones for the Moderna vaccine, and you can access it there. Briefly speaking, I had the privilege of being a member of the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine that were charged by NIH and CDC actually in summer to come up with an overall equitable framework for who gets it first, second. So the fact that you are seeing that healthcare workers are getting it first, it was part of it. It started from this process. I'm part of the WHO process in parallel that has implications for both, obviously all countries, including Pakistan and actually all around the world. But the idea is that countries then take their own, take these overall recommendations and evolve specific recommendations. So CDC is using this and a couple of other things to come up with overall recommendations. These were the phases we recommended. And today CDC will come out with clarification of phase 1 A, B, C, which is likely to be based on the material they have shared pre-meeting. The vote is in the afternoon, is likely to be, will have a substantial overlap with this framework. So I will pause here and would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much. I had muted myself. A lot of information and a lot of very good and important and pertinent information. Since this went a little bit longer, so we are out of time for questions, but I would request Dr. Saad Umar to stay here a while, and if any of the participants want to ask question, Dr. Saad Umar will answer on the chat. And now we move to our last segment, which is farewell to the outgoing EC and welcome to the incoming EC. And the current EC 2020, as you all know, is Dr. Naheed Usmani, President, Dr. Rizwan Khalid, President-elect, I, Harun Durrani, Secretary, Arshad Rehan, Treasurer, and Naseem Shekhani, the immediate past President. This year was a very mixed year. We had a lot of disappointment in a way that APPNA had to cancel all of its meetings, spring meeting, summer meeting, fall meeting, international meetings, winter meeting, which is being held now virtually in the next week. But at the same time, it was quite rewarding as well. APPNA was able to do a lot of relief efforts for COVID-19. Some of them was very unprecedented way, the amount of money we raised, the people helped, the volunteerism, that was unbelievable. And the other important thing this year will be remembered as that one of the major overhaul of the bylaw system started, which is quite in progress. So since Dr. Naheed Usmani will be becoming immediate past president in 2021 from president this year, I would request Dr. Naheed Usmani to say a few words. Naheed?
Thank you, Harun. As has been mentioned multiple times, this year was unprecedented. But I think as a community, APPNA succeeded. We met regularly on social media. There was positive interactions. There was remarkable fundraising and efforts by the COVID Task Force and Social Welfare Disaster Relief Committee under the leadership of Dr. Sajid Chaudhary and Dr. Aisha Zafar, where we were able to deliver, food aid and PPEs and oxygen to remote areas of Pakistan and major teaching hospitals throughout Pakistan and in USA at a very chapter level, at a state level, and to various hospitals, food aid to the people affected by COVID. So APPNA, if you look at the amount of tasks we were able to accomplish, had a lot of feathers under its cap. I think the success of an organization, while we enjoy the social interaction, is totally reflected by the work that we do. And important work was carried out. As Harun mentioned, the Constitution and bylaws amendments are an ongoing process. We took a very deliberate approach that we are not going to make quick decisions. We are going to be very deliberative about it. We are going to take time. We are going to be inclusive. We are going to not be under one group, but be representative of all the different, mind, different ideas and different philosophies. We will bring them together and come up with a comprehensive amendment to our constitution that would be acceptable to the whole membership. And it was time. APPNA has grown. The constitution that we are working on with has limitations pertaining to the current membership and its need. We have had a very positive educational year. APPNA Merit has been launched. It's, the website where APPNA Merit Academy was launched, where multiple courses can be handled from many different institutions in Pakistan. Family Medicine Initiative was launched. We became a partner and were on the board for Yarane-Watan initiative launched by the Federal Ministry of Health to connect Pakistani medical and health diaspora to organizations in Pakistan. So that all happened. I think we had successful elections and we have incoming diverse group of APPNA leadership, which is very, fills me with optimism for continued forward growth of our organization. All of this was done by a wonderful executive committee with participation and contribution by our board of trustees, by Dr. Rizwan Khalid, our president-elect, Dr. Harun Durrani, Dr. Arshad Rehan, and the committee chairs really put their heart and soul into the various efforts. So I, as an APPNA president finishing the term, I would like to say thank you to all the people who have worked so hard. I think one of the key initiatives that we did was we had, even though we couldn't meet in person, we kept our membership informed. Our communication committee chair, Dr. Mubashir Rana, helped put out monthly newsletters called APPNA Now that not only informed our membership, but also informed other communities of the work that APPNA was doing. So I would like to thank him as well. And on that note, Harun, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nahid. So Dr. Naseem Shekhani, who was the immediate past president this year, will be leaving the executive committee. He is recovering from COVID-19 and could not join us today. We all wish him quick, speedy, and complete recovery. So, and hopefully he will be able to send a message on his own to the APPNA membership when he is able to. 2020 Board of Trustees, Asif Rahman, Dr. Asif Rahman was the chair, Dr. Riaz Chaudhry, secretary, and Dr. Hamid Paracha and Dr. Shabbar Hussain are the members. Early on in the year, we lost one of the member of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Rubina Inayat, who was a staunch supporter of APPNA and an icon of APPNA. And we just pray that may Allah rest her soul in peace and grant her high place in heavens. To represent Board of Trustees, we have Dr. Asif Rahman. I request him to say a few words.
Thank you, Harun. Thank you for arranging all this today. And you have been doing this in entire year. I want to personally thank the panelists which joined from Pakistan and late of the hour. And also it was a very informative COVID lecture. If we look back on this year, we have loss of Dr. Rubina Inayat. At the same time, it was such a horrific year in relation to coronavirus. If we look back, there is nothing else we can talk about. It was coronavirus. Unfortunately, financially organization, because we could not do meeting and trips, but luckily with finances in hand and also the help from the government, we were able to sustain this year. And I am hoping that coming year will be better, particularly with vaccine coming. Please make sure that consult with your own physician and be careful, but get coronavirus vaccine. And I'm hoping this coming year, we will be again able to meet each other personally the way we used to communicate with in meeting. I think organization has done a remarkable job this year, at least on one thing in social welfare and coronavirus task force. We were able to raise that much fund, then was able to give matching funds, and we were able to help both in United States as well as in Pakistan. And I think that was a great job. Educational merit program continued, but I am hoping that coming year, we will be able to meet personally. We'll be able to go back to do the same thing what this organization used to do in education, advocacy, social welfare. And we are looking forward to work with the new executive committee. And it was an honor to work with the previous executive committee. And I wish all the health to Naseem. He's leaving the executive committee, but he's recovering from coronavirus. And I'm hoping to see him in coming meeting. And good luck to new executive committee. We will provide all the support what we can to the coming executive committee. And hopefully the coming year will be a better year, a happier year for us personally, as well as organization, as well as the country where we live in and back home, Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Asif Rahman. Now, the Executive Committee for 2021. Dr. Rizwan Khalid is going to be the president. Dr. Harun Durrani, president-elect. Arshad Rehan, secretary. And Dr. Humara Kamar, incoming treasurer. And Dr. Nahid Usmani will be immediate past president. Among that, I like Arshad Rehan's pictures most. So Dr. Rizwan Khalid is going to be the incoming president. I would like him to say a few words.
Anji, Assalamu alaikum, all APPNA members, panelists, and illustrious guests. I would take a second to thank all the guests that were here from Pakistan, who gave us the talk about the Roshan Digital Program. I would also specifically like to thank my friend from Aga Khan, Dr. Saad Umar, who joined us on a Sunday to give us and provide us all the information about COVID-19 vaccines. Saad has been instrumental and a world leader on vaccines and has been championing the cause of vaccines, even the time when we were together at Emory, when he was joining Emory at that time. And now he's in New Haven, and good luck to him for all his future endeavors. I would like to, there's obviously a bunch of things that 2020 will be remembered for. I think Harun and Nahid have very eloquently described those. I'm not going to dwell on those, but yes, we have had a huge number of successes in 2020, despite all the challenges. And I can personally say that the standout performance were from the social welfare and the Corona Task Force headed by Dr. Sajid Chaudhary and Dr. Aisha Zafar. And equally, excellent work was done by APPNA Merit, by Dr. Danish Bhatti and Dr. Shahid Rafiq. So certainly, I think these were our standout performances this year. A lot of other work went behind the scenes, such as the bylaws and constitution committee, and numerous other committees did their work as well. I would personally like to thank Dr. Naheed Usmani for her leadership. It was a tough year. She kept her composure and took everybody along. So that's a testament to leadership during a challenging time. So thank you very much to Dr. Naheed Usmani for her input in all the EC matters this year, and hopefully looking forward to her input next year as well as an EC member. I could not be happy with the EC that we are going to have next year as well. We had a wonderful EC this year, and we are going to have a wonderful EC next year. Dr. Arshad Rehan is our secretary. Dr. Haroon Durrani will graduate to president-elect. He did an excellent job this year with the community webinars, which was actually his brainchild, and the EC approved it. I'm very happy that Dr. Humaira Kamar is joining us. She is already working a lot behind the scenes, and we have been discussing about the financial health of the organization for next year, and she's very keen and very interested in trying to build up a financial policy and see how we can improve the financial health for next year, as we really had some tumultuous times this year as far as finances were concerned. Dr. Naseem Shekhani, obviously, we pray for his health. He was tremendous in his input this year. And one other person is Dr. Rubina Anayat, that I will really miss her advice, her counsel, and I'm going to miss that next year a lot. But we're keen to work with the Board of Trustees, Dr. Asif Rahman and Dr. Riaz Chaudhary, and the rest of the Board of Trustees member will continue to work together and see how we can move the organization forward. The aims for next year are going to be, there's obviously this, we don't have time today to discuss all the various things that we're going to do, but the focus is going to be a lot on education, improving institutional building, improving governance, hopefully continue to work on constitution and bylaws, focus on mentorship of young physician, and also to improve the financial health of APPNA. So briefly, these are going to be 4 to 5 tenets of our policy next year with the help of the EC. We will have a good, leadership as in various committees, and we'll hope that the work will be done in a very transparent and a productive way where there is accountability as well. And hopefully, many of us are getting our vaccines. I got my vaccine on Thursday. Hopefully, a lot of APPNA members are getting it. Hopefully, our families will get the vaccine too. And looking forward to having physical meetings in 2020. Our summer meeting is in Orlando. We will share some of the other meetings that we are, based on the Corona situation. We will move forward. The strategic meeting is supposed to be in Chicago, the end of January, the 1st, and then in April we were planning to do a spring meeting in Philadelphia. But we will see how things transpire, and we'll take it from there. So again, looking forward to an excellent year next year, just like we had a good year this year, and looking forward to work with the EC, the Board of Trustees, the council members, incoming council members, and all committee chairs and members. I thank all the APPNA members for supporting the EC this year, and looking forward to their support and advice next year as well. Thank you very much, and Assalamu Alaikum.
Okay, we are a little bit over time, but this was important um, to complete our introduction. So I'll ask everyone to stay a little brief. So the incoming Treasurer 2021 is Dr. Humaira Qamar. I will ask her to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear APPNA members and current attendees of this meeting. It is my honor and privilege to be with you in today as part of the APPNA EC, a prestigious body. It is my unique honor and pleasure, and I just want to just say a few words. I know we are all running late. So APPNA Treasurer has the very important task of managing the finances of APPNA, budgeting, keeping tabs on all expenses to ensure the ongoing robust growth and financial health of APPNA in a non-partisan, transparent manner. And it will also be my job to make sure that we work on matters in a congenial and respectful manner. Briefly, I will be focusing on the following during my tenure starting January 1, 2021. Number one, transparency. I will be presenting APPNA's financial report to the membership every 3 months during the APPNA meetings as defined by the role. I will also be revising the APPNA financial policy, which is supposed to be revised every 2 years and has not been done since 2015. I will also put the APPNA's financial, with the help of the EC and approval of the EC, put all the financial matters in a confidential manner on the APPNA website so members can access. And I will also work towards improved revenue streams for APPNA other than meetings like we just saw last 2020. The meetings is an excellent source of revenue, has traditionally been the main source of revenue for APPNA, but unforeseen circumstances have caused a lot of hardship. And going forward, we have to keep that in mind. These viruses, these weird mutating viruses are unfortunately not going away, and we have to learn to coexist with them on this earth. So this, one of the things I had talked about, and I will be working with that with the help of EC, and I will be presenting to the EC in the near future, will be the APPNA Bazaar. Currently, there is an APPNA, when the summer meeting had gotten canceled, some of the candidates, I'm sorry, not the candidate, but the vendors had stayed on and, had used APPNA website, but it's not done in a very, very formal fashion. I want to start this APPNA Bazaar online, which will sell APPNA memorabilia, ethnic jewelry and clothes sourced from small cottage industry in Pakistan to help them and to help our members. I will be further enlarging that concept in detail soon. So this is just a brief introduction. And number 3, I will be voting in important APPNA matters in a non-partisan, respectful fashion by putting always APPNA first and not bowing down to any special interest group like the current EC. I will be working with respect and collegiality with other APPNA EC members, especially the president, Dr. Rizwan Khalid, to ensure smooth functioning of APPNA. I would like to conclude by congratulating Dr. Naseem Shekhani for exiting the EC. He ran a tremendous, campaign, and he did tremendous amount of work for APPNA. I want to thank Dr. Nahid Usmani, the outgoing president, who will now be the president, immediate past president. She did a tremendous job through difficult times. I want to thank her for her leadership. And briefly, about doing all of the above, I need all of your help. I need the help of the EC, of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Asif Rahman. I want to help, get help from all the APPNA members. Please feel free to call me or email me with your suggestions. My door is always open. And I will be consulting with the EC and with Mr. Lake to start online office hours monthly so that people can dial in during that time and we can converse. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, and APPNA Zindabad.
Thank you very much, Humaira. Last but not the least, Dr. Arshad Rehan, who is our current treasurer, and he will be moving to become secretary next year, and he will also be taking over my role as a moderator for this webinar. And I will ask him to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I think we're running late, so I would not detain you longer. But I would just thank everybody. You heard from everyone, and we all know that it was a difficult year. I think one good that came out of it is for us to use more online tools like these webinars. I think they were a wonderful addition for APPNA and communicating with the membership and the leadership. So I hope that we can continue that. I'll try to fill in Harun's shoes. I'm trying to learn his Assalamu alaikum members in a formal way. So I will try to do that. And hopefully, inshallah, the next EC would be working in a collegial manner like this EC did. I am so very proud of the work the committees did, and the committee chairs and memberships. It's just a phenomenal job that they give so much time. It's a volunteer job. It's an unthankful job at times, but they give so much of their time, particularly, as everybody said, Aisha and Sajid for their work with COVID. Merit did an excellent job, and advocacy for arranging visas, facilitating the new coming residents to be able to physically here to start their residencies on time. The advocacy committee did just a wonderful job. That was great. Good luck to Naseem. I want to thank him for the role that he played in the EC the last 1 year. Board of Trustees has always been very helpful. We kept going to them for requests for money as the financials were not good, and they were gracious to support that. So inshallah, we'll keep seeing you regularly next year. And thank you very much, and Allah Hafiz.
Thank you very much. I apologize again for going a little over time, but I think we covered almost everything. I still see that a lot of questions regarding digital, Russian digital accounts still coming in, and we have a Mr. Arshad Bhatti answering those questions, and we will send these questions to the State Bank of Pakistan as well. Please stay safe by following CDC recommendations, by wearing masks and keeping safe distance, and get your vaccine when it is your turn. There is light at the end of the tunnel in the form of this vaccine. Hope next year is going to be much like a normal year, returning normal life. We'll see you all next year. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Harun.
Thank you.